He stalled negotiations. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is vowing that Democrats will have a deal on a scaled-back package by the end of the week. They want to get this done, some agreement, before President Biden leaves for Europe next week. He's going to the Glasgow climate conference. Of course, we've reported that it is entirely unlikely that something happens by the 31st. Joining me right now is New York Congresswoman. She is a member of the House Transportation, Infrastructure, and Foreign Affairs Committees, Nicole Malliotakis. Congresswoman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much. What do you think? Do you think that it is likely that the president gets something done before he leaves for Europe next week?
Well, it's quite possible they'll try to jam something down our throats this week. It's hard to say what exactly will be in this package. As you know, they keep changing the price tag. It was $3.5 trillion, which, although with inflation, will be much more. Now they're saying it'll be $2 trillion. They keep changing some of the specifics and some of this policy, but they still intend to double the number of IRS agents, and they still intend to look into every American's account. They still look to extend welfare to work without work requirements and other programs, new social programs. So we have to see what's actually in this package at the end of the day. But regardless, we can tell by what they've been saying that it's not going to be good for this country, and it's going to put us on a path towards socialism. And if we could stop it early enough, I think America will be better off.
So, Congresswoman, what I've got here is that they are taking the corporate tax rates off the table. Obviously, Senator Sinema said that's a no-go. But they've got an idea of having a corporate minimum tax of 15% to capture whatever company is not paying taxes. And then they've got this billionaire mark-to-market. In other words, unrealized capital gains taxes. So if you buy stocks or you buy a piece of art, they're just going to value it in that tax year, and you'll pay taxes on it even though you never sold it, and even though it may very well decline in value a day after you pay the tax. Is that the thinking?
Well, look, they're gonna take some bad stuff out, but then they're gonna put some other bad stuff in to make it up. Look, right. I think Republicans right now just have to continue putting the pressure on those moderate Democrats by exposing what's in this bill, by continuing to talk about how this will affect every American with increased taxation, not just those earning over $400,000. We can perhaps try to get some other bad policy in. But you're right. We expose one thing, they take it out, but then they come up with another ridiculous idea to try to make up that extra spending. The reality is we just can't afford to spend this amount of money in the period that they're talking about, and that is why it should be completely off the table. I wish they would just focus on the bipartisan infrastructure bill. I think that is something that you would get a lot of Republican support for if it came up separately. And let's also talk about how they refuse to allow us to debate these bills extensively on the floor. They'll give you maybe an hour to debate, $2 trillion. I mean, that's just outrageous. That's not a good way to be using American taxpayer money or to provide transparency to those taxpayers.
Yeah, I know. I understand on the infrastructure deal, and I know that there is a real push to get that done sooner rather than later. But look, even there are problems. There's not 1 cent in that bill for border security. And also, I was told this weekend that the multi-billions that are earmarked for Amtrak is not really for Amtrak, the tracks. It's for the pension fund at Amtrak. Is that right? It's the pension fund, not the tracks. So that's not infrastructure.
Well, it's my understanding that there's money in there for the Gateway Tunnel, which is important for economic development and for New York. But you're right about border security, and I thank you for the extensive coverage that you've been putting on what's happening at the border. And as somebody who has seen fentanyl increasing deaths in my community, as so many others across America, we need to stop what is occurring at the southern border, and not just that, but suspected terrorists that are attempting to come to America.
Right. Well, that's what I want to ask you about, because the Department of Homeland Security has secured a contract to build a nearly $500,000 taxpayer-funded security fence around President Biden's Delaware beach home. So, I mean, taxpayers are paying for this new fence around his beach house. Meanwhile, all construction on the U.S. southern border wall has been halted amid a record number of migrant apprehensions, Congressman. We got 1.7 million apprehensions year to date. And that doesn't even include the gotaways we just talked about, where they're exploiting kids to be the getaway cars to take gotaways into the city of Houston, among others. And yet taxpayers are paying for a new fence around Joe Biden's house. What is this about?
This is the height of hypocrisy, but once again, they are showing Americans that barriers do work. And by the way, we're still paying for that border barrier. It's just not actually being constructed because he canceled the contracts. The reality is that Americans should be very concerned what they're seeing. Not only are these young people being exploited to be the getaway cars, but we're seeing record number of fentanyl coming over our border. DEA has warned that this is what is causing these deaths. This is where it's coming from. So Joe Biden is on the side of the drug cartels, not the American citizens. And when it comes to national security, 52 individuals with al-Qaeda ties were approaching the United States border. They got stopped in Panama. The Panamanian foreign minister has informed Congress. And what is Joe Biden doing? He continues to leave the border open, knowing that we have even caught individuals on the terrorist watch list. I'm deeply concerned about our national security. I'm deeply concerned about the amount of fentanyl coming over our border. The Remain in Mexico policy cannot get reinstated quick enough, but we need to get serious about building these barriers at our southern border and stopping this.
Yeah, well, hopefully they will follow the Supreme Court on that Remain in Mexico, because my sources on the ground in Texas tell me they're not reinstating Remain in Mexico. It's just not happening. They're blowing off the law. But you heard Joe Biden last week in the town hall make up a story that he was at the border. We have no record of that he was ever at the border as vice president, as senator, and certainly not as commander-in-chief, where he has reversed all of the security policies in place. Congressman, we're going to keep following this, and we thank you for joining me this morning. Nicole Malliotakis joining us.
Well, it won't be the first time.
Yeah,
it won't be the first time that President Biden says one thing and then does something else. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. Stay with us.